Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. If you're watching this video, it's quite possibly because you're a new member. You just received your 3 dram set in the mail from just joining the society. You might already be, however, an existing member and you got this 3 dram set for referring a friend. Either which way, thank you so much for either referring a friend or joining the society. You've joined the world's most colourful whisky club. You've joined this to have an experience with whisky, to discover flavours, to go on a journey and join the community of whisky, like-minded whisky lovers around Australia and indeed around the world. It is a global club you've just joined, so welcome in advance. Thank you so much for watching this along. If you're watching this, it's because you've probably just scanned the QR code in your 3 dram set here. You've opened that up. You've got your 3 tasting cards inside the pack here. You've also got the welcome letter just to say welcome, see what it's all about. As it says in the form here, grab a glass, pour a dram, share with a friend. There's 30 mils in each of these samples, so there is enough to share around. You can have it all yourself, of course. And taste through each of them with our national ambassador, Matt Bailey, on YouTube. That's me, that's right now, that's on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. The society as a whole is about 3 things: the whisky community that we embrace in Australia and around the world, colourful experiences that you get to go on, whether they be virtual ones like this or in-person ones that we regularly host around the country and indeed around the world. And of course, we are all about flavour. We've picked out 3 very unique single cask whiskies to share with you in this pack that you get to open up, taste along with us right now, and we'll go through each one, describe a little bit of what it's about, what you're experiencing. This might be your first ever society whiskey. You may have been to an event, you may have tasted a few already, you may even have a few bottles of it kicking around, but in either way, this is your 3 dram set. We're going to taste through each one, get an understanding of what it's all about, and go from there. At the society, we use what's called a flavour profiling approach. We have 12 different flavour profiles that we categorise the whiskies into to make it easy to work out where to start in picking whiskies off an outturn. Outturn is our monthly edition of casks that we offer up to members. Once would have been called a bottling list, has been called an outturn for many, many years now. And in this case, we've picked out 3 casks of currently featured casks of whiskey, and these are all single cask strength, so full proof, nice high proof on each one. The whiskey proof is as it is straight out of the cask. They are natural colour, they're non-chill filtered, they are full flavoured whiskies as approved by our expert tasting panel for you to enjoy with us right now. We're going to start with cask 38.31. The magic is so strong. You might think for a second that it seems a bit sort of weird to start with the most expensive and the rarest one in this pack, but it's also one of the most subtle in terms of flavours. It's an old whiskey. When whiskey gets a bit older in the glass, in the cask I should say, when whiskey gets a bit older in the cask, in the wood, it actually develops sometimes these much more subtle flavour aromas, much more subtle flavouring tasting notes. And so we're going to open this sample up first. So pull that 38.31 out of your pack there, see if my camera focuses in on that. There we go. The magic is so strong. You've got a 30 ml sample. I'm going to open mine right now so I can share it along with you. The glass you want to use to taste whiskey out of, you can taste whiskey out of 2 main categories of glassware that I like to recommend. One is of course what I would call an enjoyment glass. That might be a rocks tumbler, that might be any sort of large sort of round glass that you'd like to enjoy your whiskey out of. Round glass. I say round glasses if they're sort of commonplace to have square glasses, but it's a round glass that you might enjoy your whiskey out of regularly. However, for appreciation of whiskey, I recommend using something like a society coppeter like we sell on the website. These are really good tulip-shaped glasses, nice and small. They concentrate the aromas in the bulb of the glass to enjoy your whiskey out of and to appreciate it, especially when you're talking about a whiskey that might be, in this case, 26-year-old whiskey that you got for free for just joining the society or referring a friend. You want to have something that you can really sit back and appreciate everything that's going on, especially it's something that's a little bit lower proof, 53.9% natural cask strength, and you want to have all the opportunity not to miss out on any of the nuances of this particular cask. So pour that into the glass. I'm going to pour about half my sample now, save a little bit for later. Now, like I said, there's enough to go around. You can share this with a friend. I'm going to share this with myself and with you virtually right now. The first time you nose this whiskey, like I said, if you're new to whiskey or if you're new to the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, don't just immediately throw your nose straight into the glass. Don't need to do that. You're going to get probably a bit of a prickle. It's going to hurt the nose a little bit. It's going to be like, oh, that's a bit too much ethanolic. It's a bit too hot. Just hover near the top of it for a moment. That is soft fruits Now, have a look at, before I delve too much into my own tasting notes on this, have a look at the tasting card for a second here. It says, and I quote, "Miraculously, we were transported to the Caribbean, to be precise, the island of Antigua, and there to Nelson's dockyard in the marina called English Harbour, with the non-existing 1 o'clock gun being fired. Imagination is a wonderful thing." Is that a tasting note, or is that just imagination? That's the feeling, the aroma, the evocative nature of what whiskey can do. Whiskey can transport us to other places. It can remind us of childhood treats. It can remind us of times and places and people and journeys and adventures. That's the part of whiskey that I love the most. It's the journeys, the adventures, and the people you get to share it with. In this case, I get to share it with you. 38.31, the magic is so strong. As you'll see here, we put everything like the cask type, the region, the age, the date it was distilled, the outturn, that means the number of bottles yielded from the cask total worldwide. You can see here 270 bottles. That's not 270 bottles in Australia, that's 270 worldwide for tens and tens of thousands of members of the society coming together. Only 270 of these to go around. Also, this was distilled the 11th of July 1994. For those of you who are over 26 years of age, I'd like for you to think for a second, what were you doing on that day? Where do you think you were on the 11th of July in 1994? I know where I was, and I wasn't old enough to drink whiskey, but it was certainly, I could probably almost remember 1994. 26 years is a long time. It's just to appreciate that it might make a day it might take a day to make a good vodka, a good day to make a good gin, but this time it took 26 years for this whiskey to get to our glass. So take a moment to really appreciate it. Don't shot it back. Nose that one more time. What have we got going on now? I'm getting at rum and raisin ice cream, milk chocolate, oh, that's just lovely. Get a little bit closer as you get a bit further into the whiskey there, and then let's have a taste. Roll it across the palate. Ooh, across the palate. Wow. That's got a lot of life for an older whiskey. Often older whiskey comes across as quite light, quite delicate, quite nuanced. That one's got a lot of body and a lot of life going on it, which is great. I'm not going to add water to that, but you may want to add water to your whiskey as you go along. In fact, I even have a water jug ready to go. I like to add, should probably get that on the camera. I like to add a little bit of water to my whiskeys as I go along. I'm not going to add, I might try it with a drop of water. Adding a few drops of water to whiskey is great. It opens up all the aromas, all those flavours come bursting out of the glass. And you're not sacrificing too much. You're not sacrificing anything, in fact. Sometimes water, in fact a lot of the time, water lets the whiskey open up, becomes a lot more exciting. All those aromas start bouncing out of the glass. In fact, I've changed my mind. I'm going to add a few drops of water to this. I'll show you how much I'm adding for reference sake, so you can do the same at home if you wish. Just a small splash. Remember, you can't take it back out again. Much more floral. That's just lovely. That's fantastic. We've deliberately picked out 3 very diverse casks here to start you off on your journey, so you can find 3 flavour profiles out of the 12 that you might say, "Ooh, I hadn't considered that." And you often find members in the start of their journey looking for the big sherry bombs or looking for the big peated whiskies, and that's fine. I always love a good sherried whiskey and a great peated whiskey, but sometimes you might miss what I like to call some of the symphonic masterpieces in between, and they might be spicy and sweet, or sweet, fruity and mellow, or light and delicate, or juicy oak and vanilla. One of the other flavour profiles that exemplifies some of those other aromas, some of those, like I say, symphonic masterpieces of whiskey that can transport you and your aromas through. This is just that's just lingering. That 38.31 is just lingering. You might reference here that I keep calling it 38.31. The magic is so strong. There's no such distillery called Magic It's So Strong. That'd be a cool name for a distillery though. This is, first of all, I want to start by saying this is a closed distillery. This distillery no longer exists. It was demolished nearly 20 years ago. It's a Speyside distillery from Scotland. We don't put the distillery name on the bottle. There's 2 good reasons for that. 2. One is that we don't want you to have a preconceived notion of what that whiskey should taste like. If we take that away, then you get to enjoy the flavour of that whiskey and concentrate on the flavours, not the marketing, not what you think it should taste like, just that whiskey. And the second reason is, by not listing the distillery name on the bottle, we're able to actually form a much stronger relationship with these distilleries in sourcing the best single cask whiskies out of them. So these whiskies are only available to members. You're now a member of the society if you're watching this, presumably. Unless you've stumbled across it on our YouTube channel, in which case, Slán Java. It's from a second fill bourbon barrel. Ex-bourbon barrels are what carries the Scotch whisky industry. So big thank you to our friends who make bourbon, because without your casks, we wouldn't have the magic as we know it today of Scotch whisky. A large portion of Scotch whisky is also sometimes matured in ex-sherry casks of different varieties, ex-port casks, ex-rum casks, things like that. They impart different flavours. And in this case, a second fill bourbon barrel has meant that it's a very delicate cask makeup, but it means that 26 years of great spirit maturation will hold it all together really nicely. It's a very delicate, soft and enjoyable dram, this one, so cheers. So, let's move along. I'm going to move along now. If you need to pause and stick with that dram for a bit, please do, but I'm going to move on to number 2. Number 2 is not your usual kind of whiskey. Number 2 is in fact a grain whiskey. Let's explore for a second what grain whiskey is. We differentiate between malt whiskey and grain whiskey at the Society by the malt whiskies having just the code like 38.31 or 1.224 or whatever the code is. And the first number meaning the distillery and the second number meaning the cask. In this case, we use the G code for grains, R for rums, B for bourbons, C for cognacs, A for armagnacs and so forth. All the different flavours and all the different spirit types that we like to bottle in the pursuit of flavour. It's not just about Scotch whiskies. We bottle whiskey from Japan, from even Australia, from Ireland, from America, from England, from India. All these places that we bottle great whiskey from in the pursuit of great flavour. That's what we're about. So it's not just Scotch malt, it's lots of different malts of whiskey, and in this case, lots of different grains of whiskey. What is grain whiskey? So, grain whiskey is predominantly a grain that is not malted barley. Grain whiskey does use a portion of malted barley, sometimes 5-10% will be malted barley to give it that enzyme, to give it a bit of structure. But grain whiskey is usually maize, wheat, corn, and sometimes a mixture of. Single grain whiskey does not mean single grain, it doesn't mean one grain type, it means it's a grain whiskey, it's a single cask grain whiskey. I'm going to grab another Society glass here. I've got 3 lined up here. They all have both the new and the old logos. That was unintentional, but some of them have the old Society monogram on them, which I'm still glad I have a few of these. So the grain goes up, the wash from this grain goes up what's called a continuous or coffee still. The coffee still was named after its inventor, Anais Coffey. Doesn't have anything to do with cup of coffee, doesn't have anything to do with actual coffee. Coffee is spelled different in this case. It's Anais Coffey who designed the coffee still. It has 2 tall columns, a rectifier and an analyzer, I should say, and the cold wash is pumped into the top of the rectifier and meets the steam, and that acts like a heat exchanger. It comes off a lot hotter than malt whiskey. It comes off a lot higher proof, but it means that it can age for a much longer time as well and provides a very different complexity. Now, don't write grain off as just inferior to malt whiskey for any reason whatsoever. Wow. Again, I've poured about 15 mils. First of all, look at the colour, as they like to say. Look at the colour. It's quite dark for a grain whiskey. It's got a lot of backbone to it. It has an additional maturation. Now have a look at your tasting card here for this one. Cocoa Nut G10.33. Extra matured, it says, in that stamp on the corner there, in a second fill HTMC hogshead. Let's nerd out for a second. HTMC is a type of cask treatment. Heavy toast, medium char. It's a type of cask treatment that gives a roasty, toasty kind of aroma to the spirit, and it makes it really fun to have a nose and taste of. It's just lovely. 61.6%. This one's got a fair bit of punch to it. Yeah, I think it will also react really nicely with a few drops of water. So we're experiencing a whiskey here that's not just a malt whiskey, but it's actually just a grain whiskey. I say just a grain. Grain is not inferior to malt, it's just different. In fact, have a look at our YouTube channel, the other videos in here, where I recently did a review of this very whiskey of G10.33 Cocoa Nut in the juicy oak and vanilla flavour profile. And you can see a bit more in depth about grain whiskey as a category. In fact, like, comment, subscribe, as people like to say. I'm not really big on that sort of thing, but press like this video, please. leave a comment. I will check all the comments. I always will. So check all the comments and just like leave a comment, and I'll check it out. Very, very like desiccated coconut. Now, I also want to warn you of something. I often hear new members saying, "Oh, I'm not getting all these tasting notes. I must be missing out on something. Is my palate not developed enough?" And the answer is always, you're not missing anything. If you're enjoying it, that's all that matters. Can you pick apart some of those tasting notes? Is there one in that list of 20 different flavors that I've identified? And this is the expert tasting panel, of which there are a few members that have origins within the Scotch Whisky Research Institute, which is basically the nerdiest group of boffins who research and study Scotch whisky and work with our expert tasting panel, of which the identities we keep quiet in order to not have any influence over what gets bottled. They taste these things blind, they assess them on flavour, and they bottle them exclusively for members. With that in mind, don't get too wrapped up in worrying that you're not tasting all the tasting notes here. They're not going to. You don't need to. I don't. I've been tasting these whiskies for years and years, and I still miss some of them. I'll see something on here like menthol orange chocolates. I don't get that on this whiskey. But I do get desiccated coconut, and I do get sort of that calypso toasted and ice cream and suntan lotion kind of notes, and that are in there. And I do definitely get that. I get that suntan lotion. I go, like sun cream or sunscreen or whatever you want to call it. Sorry, suntan lotion, not sunscreen. You know what I mean? We don't. No one uses sunscreen or suntan lotion anymore. No one goes outside anymore. We're all in lockdown. Well, you might be out of lockdown by the time you watch this video. In which case, I hope you are, and I hope you're enjoying a dram out in the sun somewhere with some friends. This is a good idea of a picnic whiskey. This one. Take along a grain whiskey to your next picnic. You might surprise a few people as to how good it can be. If you need to pause and take a moment with this one, please do. We'll head on to the next whiskey in just a moment. All right, let's unwrap the third and final whiskey in your 3 dram pack. If you've just joined the society, first of all, thank you so much. Join our Facebook group, Scotch Malt Whisky Society-Australia. Join the group, get involved in the community there. It's a fantastic whiskey community around Australia and indeed around the world. But just connecting with like-minded whiskey lovers on a journey of flavour and adventurous spirit. That's what the society is at our core. Access to bottlings, partner bars, events, tours, deals, dinners, everything that we do, all of the experiences we put on are for members, including our virtual experiences like this very one you're watching right now. So I encourage you to join the Facebook group, join in the community, come to one of our events in person. There's so much fun. Depending on where you are, there's generally events going on in every state in Australia fairly regularly, except Northern Territory, not too many, sorry, but might see some more members up there. That'd be great. 10.203, we're going to head into the last dram of your pack. Again, I'm going to pour about half and share the other half elsewhere, but this is called Day is Fading West Away. Away. 10.203. This is a peated whiskey from Distillery 10. Distillery 10 is very early in our coding system. It started with Distillery 1. We're up to 149, 150 malt whiskey distilleries now, not counting all the rum and gin and other spirits that we bottle. But this is a peated whiskey from the island of Islay in the Western Hebrides of Scotland. There's 9, I think, 10 distilleries in Islay right now. I know someone's going to pull me up on that. I didn't have that factoid very much ready on my head before I said it, but that's okay. There's very few distilleries over in Islay. There's quite a few now, but like more than there are in Campbelltown or Malt, but this is still one of those 10 distilleries, and this is Distillery 10 in our case, in our coding system. And this distillery is a big distillery that produce both peated and unpeated spirit. You often see it in a mixture of different sort of weird wine casks from their core range. You see they've got a 12 and 18 different sort of spirits like this. But when you get to taste this spirit, I think, from a single cask in the peated profile, it's lovely, especially with a bit of age like this one, a 14-year-old. It's from a refill bourbon barrel, 197 bottles worldwide from the outturn, 57.1% natural cask strength. It's definitely peaty, but where did that peat come from? Does it come from the fermentation? Nope. Does it come from the barrel? Nope. Does it come from the water? It comes from the barley. It's the peating of the barley. They cut the peat into bricks, they dry it out, and they burn it underneath the kiln, which peats and smokes the barley, if you like. And that is where that flavour comes from. and it starts right at the beginning. And even after 14 years in a cask, in an oak cask, it still has so much character, so much peat oozing out the sides. But it's relaxed a bit. We have had some recently, some 6 and 7 and 8 year old expressions from this distillery, and they are much more brash, but this one's far more relaxed, far more refined. These are 3 cracking good drops in a 3 dram pack. I think we've done this pack a few times now, but this is probably my favourite so far, I'll be honest. And I haven't said that before. I don't say like every new dram pack is my favourite dram pack, but this one actually is. Roll it around the tongue a bit. Oh wow. That's very fresh. It's like fresh laundry powder, bath salts. Oh, pardon me. Bath salts, pickled lemons. Get that gingery kind of that fresh ginger note. That's a lot of fun. I think this one has sold out. I'm sorry. I think this cask has well and truly sold out. But we do get lots of 10s and lots of peated whiskey. It's not so much about this individual cask. It's more about finding the flavour profiles and preferences of whiskey that you prefer. Bit of TCP, bit of bandage. I'm going to add that with a drop of water. I'll again show you how much I'm adding, just for you've got your reference sake there. Not too much, just a drop, just to sort of open that up a bit. See how it lands. Lovely. Roll it around a bit. Enjoy that. That's fantastic. It really is an eye-opening moment when you get to taste a society whiskey, and you might not even know the distillery code, and you might not even know the distillery, and it doesn't matter. All that matters is the flavour that's in the glass. And I'm so excited to be able to share that with you and actually taste through these with you this morning, this evening, this afternoon, whatever time it is that you're watching this. And it's just so exciting to be able to share these whiskies with new members who are just discovering their society journey. Because I remember when I first discovered my society journey, which I've talked about on stream before, and that magic of actually tasting these whiskies and having that, wow, I had no idea whiskey could be made like that. I had no idea it could be that good. And the attention to detail in the quality of what we're bottling for members is constantly increasing. And we're so happy to see that happening, and so happy to be able to share these casks with members. That's what whiskey's about. It's about sharing these experiences, about joining this community and having a lot of fun along the way. I'm going to leave you enjoying that 10.203 Days Fading West Away, a peated whiskey from Islay, and it's a nice one to finish with. If you have any questions about any of these whiskies, you can ask them on our Facebook group, Scotch Malt Whisky Society Australia. You can tag us on Instagram. Take a photo of your lineup, post it on Instagram. Great photos will win prizes. Why not? I like throwing people nice little goodies as giveaways. And also, please share the society with any friends, and of course, like, comment, subscribe. We like to share the love of the society and share the love of membership, of what all the benefits of membership are that come along with it. It's not just the bottlings, it's everything else that goes along with it. I will see you all soon. Of course, we're heading into our festive season at the moment. Depending on when you're watching this, it might already be Christmas. Who knows? Either way, I really appreciate you coming along for this ride. I will see you all soon. I'm your National Ambassador, Matt Bailey, and I'll catch up with you for a dram in person, online, or wherever you may be across Australia. Have a fantastic evening, and I'll see you all soon. Happy dramming!